In such hard rock, to carve that, is not an easy task, believe me. And definitely they've had many offerings around. If you look carefully, you see yourselves the cuttings, These were small statues, standing there, The same thing in that niche, around that, etc., right there. So, in different sizes, small offerings. What is symbols for the goddess Athena or statues for the goddess.
Still one? Yep. Still one.
One?
Oops.
One.
This way we're going in, slowly. That's the very end of that long store I pointed to you before. Actually, that column you see over there is that one right here, 86 meters, almost covering the whole space, as you see, because it's like a triangle, this Acropolis. In Doric order, behind me on you, the administrative building, and right here, the storage room of this structure, and below, and above this, there was also a storage room, and above to that, that space over there, we'll see the Byzantine church of John the Baptist. In parts, the stairway, if you like, of the first temple, which was at the very summit, as the only building in the 6th century BC, the rock was carved, forming this, as you see, path with steps. Actually, right here, 2, 3 of them. In other parts were, built with slabs, flagstones. And as you are walking around, and following me, you probably noticed several of these pedestals. Bases of statues once upon a time. If you look carefully, you see here the footprints of the statues. Many more around. We've got a family over here with a number of 3, 4 of them. 4 people. Hello, number 6, please, over here. On the stage. Here we are. Have a seat. For a few minutes. A few minutes rest. While I'll be talking to you for a while. Here we are. Hello. You're lucky to be a philosopher, from my stand right here, will talk to a crowd like this, to you, maybe 4 times larger. Just like this. This staircase, was like an open auditorium. This is how the schools were created. Socrates was teaching around the Acropolis, walking, on that path around the monument in the Agora, and never wrote a single word. It was Plato, his student, who wrote everything down. And you know about the Socratic philosophy. Plato, who was a poet himself, and who, when the first time heard Socrates teaching, he teared off all his poems and threw them away, and that was it, and followed the master. So, places like this, monumental staircases, you know, next to being, let's say, very impressive and prepare psychologically the person to follow and go up, what to see there, which was the major, you know, the holy place of the goddess, the place where the deity lived, you know, with her statue and so on, you know, played also another role at times. It was not in the theater. It was in open areas like this, and it was also in the wrestling areas where teaching was going on to the youth, to the, you know, the young boys and, you know, that were under training. So, I'm sure you all know about the Greek world, of course, the Greek culture, but the Greek culture, you know, how it developed, and it took so many centuries to come to that peak, you know, in the 5th century. It was, you know, one has to really work and see what went on all around this Eastern Mediterranean. It is not just Greece and the Greek islands, you know. It's just as simple as that. It is the coast of Asia Minor, with 150 cities almost, Black Sea area, Byzantium, on the spot where Constantinople was built later on, was a colony from Megara, outside Athens, and many more, as I mentioned, in the Bas around. So, what is more about this, you know? It is the light. It is the light that creates these, you know, works. Apollo, the god of music, of harmony, of light, with his guitar or the lyre, you know, presented most of the times. He comes as the high judge, you know, between lapids and centaurs in monuments and so on, in Olympia, for example, this beautiful monument. So we don't have such things to show you here, because these monuments are small, minuscule, you know, minuscule. You see what I mean? This colonnaded portico, okay, in porous stone, the epistelion above, the architrave, painted in blue and white, the spaces from the, you know, the facade, looking at it from outside, from coming in, blue and red, and that was it. And then you proceed to the propylea, coming out to the propylea as, when you look at it, the two wings like small temples, you know, but at the same time painted the upper part of it, the epistelion I'm talking about, the architrave, and then the temple, simple again, painted and nothing else. They had to, you know, to worship Goddess Athena. The statue of the goddess was sheltered in the temple up there, on the very summit, but you will see the temple in a few minutes. They had also to think about protecting this. How? If you look carefully there in that ancient drum, because this is the last restoration that started in 1993, and then, you know, almost this year, with a few minor works in that part of the walls of the store over there, this year, and then by next year will be all the scaffoldings taken away, including, you know, this machine over here, you see this device, carrying blocks up. So what they did up there, look carefully, they coated the stone material with this very good quality of coating, white, very whitish, you know, with lots of liming, you know. From a distance, it looked like marble. Nobody could realize it was marble sandstone, and at the same time, was protecting the sandstone, which is so deteriorative, you know, deteriorates easily from all kinds of natural factors. So here we deal with very strong sun, very hot days, very strong sun, and torrential rain sometimes that come, believe me, and they are dangerous most of the time. So the store serves as a resting place. The pilgrims coming in and have rooms on both sides, except the central part, which was open, not rooms at the back, allowing the person walking in to be able to see what was behind. So you would be able probably to see, if you look at this opening in between the columns, the propylaea and maybe the topmost point of the temple. So it was all in front of his eyes, but in terraces. This is typical Hellenistic after Alexander's death. Typical, as we call them, in different terraces. And have this, perspective. The perspective was obvious, and it was there. Already introduced from the Hellenistic period. The Acropolis of Lindos was forgotten for many centuries. It was the seat of the man in charge from the Ottoman state, a pasha, who lived here, had his harem up here, lived in the building that the knights had left behind, and it was only in middle 19th century when a Frenchman named Flandin found the gate open and got in and took some photographs. That was it. And then came Rhodes and others, Europeans, of course, all of them. Rhodes was actually from Belgium, that part. And I mention that because he left behind one of the most precious, books with beautiful wood carvings. Very beautiful, very precious work. From all over Rhodes, not only from Lindos, from all over. The Byzantine church was used by the knights for 200, more than 200 years. After, let's say, the period that these monuments were, left alone to collapse or reuse the material by the villagers to build other buildings, houses, churches, whatever. It was ready material out there, It's just, take blocks down and work. So this is typical. It is typical all over. And that's why some, in some islands, you see ancient columns, walls, and you walk in, it's a church, And of course the facade is, with ancient columns, like in Sifnos Island or in Kimolos, some Cycladic islands. Just an example, in 1901, a team from Denmark, 2 archaeologists, Kinch and Blickenberg, got the permission from the Sultan, Constantinople, 1901, and the funds from Carlsberg Foundation to come here and excavate and work on the Acropolis, outside the Acropolis, and in the vicinity. I'm talking about the region of Lindia, as we call it, the period, the area. The First World War breaks, and they are, as you understand, to decide to leave things behind or not. So they left, they sent to Constantinople some items, and the rest to Copenhagen. Because nobody knows, or nobody would even say anything about what would happen during the war. So First World War, they departed, published everything later on. We have 4 volumes about Lindos, but there's not a single item in any of the Greek museums because they shipped everything to Copenhagen. Not all of it, 10% to Constantinople, the National Museum of Constantinople, Istanbul. The rest in the National Museum of Copenhagen, and in Carlsberg, Glyptotek are the sculpture works. All kind of statues was found here. We're talking about thousands of votive offerings. Only in one pit behind these walls, they found 3,000 of them. 3,000 votive, objects. Small. From the 9th century, 8th century BC, to the time when the temple was destroyed, 392 as we know historically, and they had the Lindians to collect whatever was in the temple within, survived, let's say, saved, and outside, and bury them there, and rebuild the temple, and have now, of course, new statues, other works, following different style, of course, and different trend, I would say, culturally.